Welcome, beautiful people of all ages, shapes, and colors, to another episode of the Hit Your Free Throws podcast, where we encourage you to stick to the basics. I'm one of your co-host TV, aka TV on basketball, alongside my co-host Jay, aka the Knockdown Jay. How's it going, my guy?
Bro, it's going good. We only got a few more episodes before the NBA season starts, bro. I'm starting to feel it. It's starting to kick in.
It's starting to kick in. The season, as of the recording of this episode, is 8 days away. And we have an action-packed episode for you today. We went through the 21 Qs. We went through our season previews. But we got to hit some of the big topics, man. NBA award predictions. This is where the hot takes come in. This is where we're going to see who we think are going to be the best of the best in the league. We're going to discuss this all in this episode. And, of course, we're going to end it off with the draft. We're going to end it off with the quiz. You know all that good stuff that comes with the Hit the Free Throws pod. You know what you're going to get when you are on here. But, yeah. Before we get into this episode, we do have to plug our little socials. Make sure you follow our individual pages at the Knockdown J, at TV on Basketball for the best for the best content. We're gonna be back with it pretty soon. I was back on the page, my first blog back to Scotiabank Arena. I posted that vlog earlier today, maybe like a few days ago by the time you listen to this podcast. But if you want to check out the first vlog, the first game, preseason game, check that out as well. But in terms of the Hit the Free Throws pod, remember to make sure you follow us on TikTok and Instagram for the best daily NBA content. The clips are coming. The other NBA content that we got going on, it's starting to roll right now, and it's going to continue to go on for the remainder of the season. If you're on YouTube, remember to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you will not miss an episode. And in terms of the podcast listeners, make sure you leave a review. Make sure you subscribe. All that good stuff. We appreciate all y'all's support. Jay, you ready to talk some hoops, man? We got a lot of work to get into.
I've been looking for this episode for a couple of weeks, man. We had to get through the 21 question series, but it's all lead up to this point. You know what I'm saying?
It is. And we're gonna start off by discussing, Rookie of the Year, man, first year players. We got to start off with that for the first topic. Rookie of the Year. I mean, if you're watching the preseason, there's kind of one guy standing out right now. That's pretty obvious. But we'll discuss this award. Jay, how you feeling about this year's Rookie of the Year race, and who do you got that's kind of your top candidate for that?
So I think that this Rookie of the Year race is pretty interesting because of the fact that I feel like obviously the talent at the top is definitive, and we know Victor Wembanyama is that guy. If you go ahead and check Vegas Insiders right now, he's already sitting at minus 160. It feels like he's pretty much set to go. DraftKings plus 120, BetMGM plus 125. It feels pretty safe to say that Victor Wembanyama is sitting in the front of the bus right now. And I mean, first couple of preseason games in the books, 20 in one game, 23 in the other one, showed some offensive prowess, showed off a little fancy footwork, I should say, as well. You know what I'm saying? Showed that he got that three ball that we was expecting at 7-4 as well. Pretty insane stuff. I think that we've seen a lot of Victor has given us this as advertised skill set so far, right? And that's really good to like. But Scoot Henderson, Chet Holmgren, Brandon Miller, Ausar Thompson. There's a handful of guys that I think that are going to get some real playing time across the league that can make this thing real interesting. Because I think at the end of the day, right, San Antonio is probably going to play it light with Wemby. He's probably going to try to make sure he plays at least 50, 55 games, make sure he gets his due, plays him well. He might play the 4 some nights, might play the 5 next to Jeremy Sohan's under other circumstances. We're going to see a lot of different versions of Wembanyama, I think, throughout this season, which is going to make him interesting. But I think at the end of the day, he's the phenom of this section right here, right? There's always going to be a lead candidate for the Rookie of the Year in the MVP section. There's always going to be that guy that you just look to and say, he's going to have to lose the award rather than somebody take it from him. You know what I mean?
You're right, bro. It's hard not to talk about Wemby in this category, man, for Rookie of the Year. You know what? I was already prepared for this to be a Wemby. What do people call it these days? A glaze, like a Wemby glaze, man, right now. And you already see ESPN with all the highlights. You already see Bleacher Report with all the highlights. But it's hard not to, join the hype train right now. It's what I'm seeing from Wemby, and I think we're gonna get to a point with Wemby, maybe even sooner than this guy. But we're gonna forget how ridiculous what he's doing is on the basketball court is pretty quickly, because the amount of times that Bleacher Report, ESPN is gonna shove it down our throats. Like Giannis back in the day. Like when Giannis was finally jumping into the scene, the freaking 2 dribbles from half court and all that. We used to be amazed by that. Nowadays, it's like, what? That's just freaking Giannis. That's just what he does. Freaking what Wembanyama is doing on the offensive end, like getting the rebound, going full court, being the pick and roll ball handler at times, just posting up, just having the whole offensive arsenal, and not to mention, maybe he's not going to be the best defender right away, but the defensive potential in this man. This man swiped at a ball from freaking the 3-point line, and his entire body stretched from there to the free throw line. This guy can protect the rim at 1 second, turn around, and go help out some other guy afterwards. The potential is there. There's a reason why people said this is the best prospect since LeBron James. And after, I know it's only been 2 preseason games, but you could see what they're talking about. You could see why there was so much hype for this man. We just haven't seen anything like it before. Kind of like the LeBron Jameses, just like some number 1 overall picks back in the day. We haven't seen a player like Wemby before, and he is now on our screens, and he's only playing 21 minutes a game, and he's averaging already 22 and 8. Come on, man. There's as much as you don't want to set the bar too high, you don't want to get too hyped. It's hard to do not to do it with Wemby, man, especially with what he's showing us so far. The Spurs, they might be bad, sure, but you could see why everyone was saying, this guy's a can't-miss prospect. You can, as long as he's going to be on the floor, he's going to be doing some special things. And, man, just think about in a couple years, man, him and Jeremy Sochan being the defensive, anchors for the Spurs team down the line, it's going to be really nice. You got some other rookies in this class, man, as well. I mean, some of them are going to be good. Jaime Jaquez for the Miami Heat, I want to shout out as well. Brandon Miller is showing some things over there in Charlotte. Scoot feels like he's going to be probably the best point guard coming out of this draft. He looks like a natural born leader out there. But it's hard not to talk about Rookie of the Year and talk about Wemby. He's still, even though there's a lot of guys in the mix, I got to have Wemby as my number 1 choice here.
Let me ask you this, though. I'll throw it back to you this way. To avoid the Wemby glazing, right? Let's try to at least play this whole award out, though. If you had to look down the list, again, there's a handful of guys that I think you could really take a look at. Scoot Henderson with Portland. Obviously, Chet Holmgren is available and in this situation, despite the fact that he's technically in his second year. He is somebody that is available to choose from in this one. Brandon Miller with Charlotte. Amen Thompson. Asor Thompson. There's a lot. You mentioned Jaime Jaquez earlier. There's a handful of guys that I think at least are going to get significant enough playing time. If you had to play devil's advocate, right, and say the guy who could be the one to make enough noise to upset the apple cart with Victor Wembanyama, who would it be? Because think about it, last year, it felt like Paolo Banchero was running away with the award for a good portion of the season. Then the second half of the year happened, and Jalen Williams was slowly picking up steam and at least made the conversation interesting. I think we all agree that Paolo locked it down, and I think there was a part of us that wanted to make it more interesting because Jalen Williams was playing so well.
Yeah.
But I think there was still a competition to be had come into the year where it came down to preference. If you had to pick somebody to give Wemby the most trouble in terms of Rookie of the Year voting this year, who do you think it would be?
It's hard not to say Chet, especially because this Oklahoma City Thunder team is just the potential and seeing all the pieces fit together. It feels like Chet is just the ultimate piece that they needed from the last couple of years. So you would want to say Chet, and of course he's already been in the NBA system. He's been around these guys. He kind of has a good feel for it already. Kind of how Ben Simmons had that 1 year kind of just skirting grace period sitting with Blake Griffin. But, man, when I see Scoot Henderson on the court, man, you can't help but be a little bit excited about the potential of him being kind of, the next, big-time point guard. As much as you want to, talk about, Wembanyama and how great he's going to be, and he's going to be and potentially be an all-time talent, when you're talking about the most dominant guys in the league, they usually come from the guard/wing position. They're the ones who have the most influence on the game. And I think that Scoot Henderson, right away, him getting Anthony Simons a lot involved, Shaedon Sharpe, and that pick and roll, have you seen between him and DeAndre Ayton, looking pretty solid over there. I think there's a lot of good pieces over there in Portland, and even though they have a few guys there who you may consider better than Scoot Henderson at this time, I think you could tell it's already his team. This is going to be his team and his team for sure going forward, and I think he's going to embrace that this season. He has the confidence to do so. If anyone's going to challenge him for the top spot, I think it's going to be Scoot.
I think that's a great pick. I think you mentioned beforehand, Chet Holmgren, they had their 1v1 early on in the preseason, and we saw that
Yeah.
there was something there. And I think there's a little mini rivalry between the two 7-footers that I think is something that's good to
Yeah.
keep an eye out on this year, especially because both of them are both in the Western Conference. That means we might get a couple of matchups throughout the season, which is always exciting when you talk about something like Rookie of the Year, right? You want to see as many of these one-on-one matchups as possible, especially if they're going to play the same position. That's huge. I think Chet Holmgren is going to be somebody that shows up on both sides of the end, both sides of the floor. And I think it's going to make him an interesting guy. But I'm right there with you when it comes to Scoot. TV, I'm going to paint the picture for you real quick. For the Scoot Henderson PR poll by the end of the year, man. This is how you play it. Scoot Henderson, new point guard taking on the mantle from Damian Lillard. Arguably the Portland Trail Blazers' best player in franchise history. Steps in as the lead point guard with one of the most insane duos at the center position in terms of highlight level plays possible, being in the pick and roll with either DeAndre Ayton or Robert Williams, consistently putting yourself in position to be on ESPN SportsCenter top 10 every single night. And if you listen to the Hit Your Free Throws podcast, TV might could have put Scoot Henderson in the NBA's dunk contest this year, which is only going to bring more eyeballs over to the young Scoot Henderson, which is going to put him in a position right in the front and center in front of the NBA media to put on a show at the dunk contest, to put on a show at the rookie versus sophomore, situation they got going on with that. Pair that with how exciting this young Portland Trail Blazers team is going to be as he continues to progress at the guard position, to be beforehand arguably the most dynamic position in the NBA. This guy has a chance to average 17 and 7, have an average of like 2 to 3 highlight worthy plays on a nightly basis, and the Portland Trail Blazers could scarily be pretty decent. I think that's a pretty good play.
It's not bad. It's not bad. I mean, Wemby's gonna have more opportunities. Wemby's gonna get he's going to be on a worse team. I will say that as well. But if the Portland Trail Blazers can create a little scare, and Scoot Henderson is a big part of that, who knows? So what you guys think down below? I think it's going to be Wemby's to lose. Like we mentioned off the top, it might be just Wemby's to lose, especially with how great he's looked so far. But take a look out for Scoot, man. Take a good look at him for sure. Moving on to the next award. I think this one might be a bit harder to choose just because it's really hard to quantify how to really, how to quantify this award in general, because it's a lot of just eye test based. Let's talk about Defensive Player of the Year.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like we have a set number of guys that we have in this conversation every year, but is there going to be a new guy that we add into the mix? Who knows? Jay, how are you feeling about this race, and who do you have winning it?
Yeah, so again, one of the biggest things that I try to take into consideration is just where's everybody ranked at right now in terms of the betting odds, and just getting a feel for who they even think would be in the mix. So Jaren Jackson Jr. is at the top of the list right now at plus 500 for FanDuel. Evan Mobley is right behind him. Anthony Davis is right behind him at plus 850 at the third spot. But the guy I got to go with is actually tied at plus 850 for this Defensive Player of the Year, and I'm going with Giannis. I think I said this. If it wasn't last podcast, it was the podcast before. But that was one of those things that I felt really confident about. Is Giannis Antetokounmpo? We've already seen it. If you guys watch the preseason game, and I understand preseason, got you, understand it, but contextualize. If you watch the preseason game with the Milwaukee Bucks taking on the Los Angeles Lakers recently, we got a real understanding of what the two-man game between Damian Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo can actually produce on not a night-to-night, a possession-to-possession basis. On one play, it's a pass from the top of the key from Giannis Antetokounmpo over to Damian Lillard, confident three ball from right beyond the arc off the catch. Another play, DHO flip, Giannis slips to the basket, pass down to Giannis in the post. Giannis has the opportunity to look around. He's got Anthony Davis on him, but they can't double him because guess what? There's too much spacing around. So Giannis gets a spin around dunk. There's nobody else besides Anthony Davis there to cover the rim. They are in a situation now where they have so much so many easy opportunities to create offense that it's going to make Giannis Antetokounmpo's ability to engage on the defensive end that much easier. And TV, I would argue, with what kind of production they can get offensively, it's probably going to become that much more important that Giannis Antetokounmpo is a DPOY level defender, especially with the loss of Drew Holiday. So I think that Giannis Antetokounmpo, when you look at the situation, if Giannis and Dame can lead the Bucks to being a top 5 offense, and the Bucks finish the year as anywhere in the top 5 defensively, I think Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to have a lot to do with that. Because in the past, we've said, oh, Brook Lopez is the anchor of this defense, but obviously there's Drew Holiday as one of the better, if not the best perimeter defender in the league. Then you kind of have Giannis as a tertiary guy.
Yeah.
I think in this role, Giannis has to be the 1A defensively. You know what I mean? So I think that only further expands what he's going to do. And I think with the kind of talent and versatility he has defensively, we obviously know that's going to lead to a lot of production if he's super engaged. I think there's a really good chance for him to get back on depoy status.
I really like that pick. And the narrative of Drew Holiday leaving the team and Giannis having to be kind of that 1A defensively now, it's going to be key. And honestly, with these top 3 guys that we mentioned, Triple J, Evan Mobley, Giannis Antetokounmpo, what do they all have in common? They have a center that's going to be doing the dirty work inside and is going to let them roam, get the highlight plays, be the one to kind of cover a lot of space. And I think that's going to be key in this race, because as much as Anthony Davis is a great defender, as he reminded us in the last playoffs that he's still one of the top defenders in the league, and as well as Bam Adebayo, who's over here at the 5th best odds, they're going to have to anchor that defense. And if their defense is not as great as it seems to be, it's going to be put on them, which is tough on them, but also that's what comes with the whole defensive player of the year conversation. But you put Giannis in that conversation, I think that this is a good chance for Evan Mobley to jump and take that whole next step in his game. I'm gonna have him win defensive player of the year. Kind of the same scenario there. It's probably not as bad. It's probably worse defensively over there in Cleveland, because man, that short backcourt is gonna kind of get exposed sometimes, from night basis. But where does that funnel? It's gonna funnel things to the rim. You know who you got inside there? Jared Allen and Evan Mobley. That's gonna be a tough duo to finish over. And I think there's an extra pressure on Evan Mobley to take that next step, because the Cavs need to have him take that next step in order for them to be the team that we all want to see them to be. Darius Garland's coming into this season healthy, which is great compared to last year. You know what Donovan Mitchell is going to give you. What is Evan Mobley going to dominate? Where is he going to dominate in this game? He is going to dominate defensively for this Cleveland Cavalier team. We've seen him out on the perimeter. He can hang with the best of them. And then when it comes to being one of the best help defenders in the league, one of the best shot blockers, we've seen the potential there. He needs to lock in. He absolutely needs to lock in for this Cavs team to be in the mix. This team could be a really good. And remember, also too, this is a regular season award. So if he can if him and Jared Allen can elevate the Cavs to about like you said, a top 5 defense, he's the ones who are going to be doing the highlight level plays. He's going to be the ones who's going to be doing the most of the switching. And I think that Evan Mobley has shown, even coming into the draft, that he could be one of the best defenders in the league. People are comparing him to Tim Duncan for that very reason. And I think that in this year, after the first 2 years of him trying to figure stuff out, I think this is where he's going to take his true next step that we kind of expected maybe too early from him last year. I think this is where we're going to see the step take place this year. And I think that it's going to start off with having his first NBA piece of hardware and Defensive Player of the Year.
I think that's a really good play. And I think at the end of the day with Evan Mobley, like you mentioned beforehand, this is a guy that has DPOY genes. This is a dude who I think was legitimately in the running last year as well.
Yeah, I think had a real third or fourth.
I believe it was third or fourth that he finished in. I think it was right behind Jaren Jackson Jr. and Brook Lopez, if I'm not mistaken. So he's already been in the mix. This is one of those situations now. I think you mentioned it beforehand. If Evan Mobley doesn't take a step offensively, which is the thing that everybody kind of views as the next real thing for the Cavaliers to take that next step as a championship caliber team, the only other way that we could see any kind of real improvement is for him to become even more of a demon defensively, which is possible. You mentioned it beforehand with the small backcourt. He's going to have to be hyperly engaged defensively. That's the only way you survive on that side of the ball with the small backcourt that you have. Now, you have the luxury of having a Jared Allen behind you, but you mentioned it earlier. him being a roamer, him needing to be somebody that can space on the perimeter in terms of being able to take some of those perimeter assignments. Those are different things that they kind of define the position at this point. Just being a regular rim defender, I think the days of the Rudy Gobert-esque DPOYs where you're just a guy who can survive as a shot blocker. And I don't want to say that that's all that Rudy did. He was a pretty good defender in space and different things like that. But I think the days of just being an elite shot blocker carrying your narrative as a DPOY candidate, I think they're gone now. I think your ability to guard in space, I think your ability to guard up and down positions, I think your ability to have highlight level defensive plays on a night-to-night basis, they're all things that are going to be put together now. I think now with the NBA becoming so versatile, just being able to block shots and get steals is not going to tell the whole story of whether or not you're really one of the best defenders in our league.
Yeah, 100%. And out of every other award, this award requires the biggest eye test in terms of votes, in terms of the the voting process. Like we have to see you produce be like a force on the defensive end. And it does help. Like I mentioned with Evan Mobley, he is in the mix. Same thing with Giannis, he was in the mix already. It takes a little bit of time for you to gain that, notoriety, that kind of reputation of being a good defender. Once you have that, you're going to be in the mix for Defensive Player of the Year. These two guys have a chance. So either of these guys could definitely have it, but also we got to shout out Jaren Jackson Jr. If Steven Adams could stay healthy, you know how dominant he could be defensively. He's got to work on the fouls, man. He's got to work on the fouls. But besides that, he's definitely a candidate there. But Jay's going with Giannis. I'm going with Evan Mobley for our picks for DPOY. Moving on, Jay. We are moving off the court for this pick. We're going to go with Coach of the Year. This award, again, it's different. It's been kind of different the last couple of years. It's not just who's got the best record, East or West, who's got the best record in general. I feel like there's adding more of a narrative to this award each and every year. And I think it could be the same thing this year. Jay, who do you got winning Coach of the Year?
I mean, this, like you mentioned, this is one of those where narrative is really going to carry. I think Adrian Griffin for Milwaukee has the lead right now, but I think you could also make a really strong argument for Mark Daigneault, who I think has just been in the running for Coach of the Year the last 2 to 3 years and kind of just always has come up short.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest, bro, I think I'm going with Mark. I think it's about that time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think he's one of those guys who I think has been really deserving of the award the last couple of seasons. And I think that eventually when it comes to these awards, the OKC hype is going to land somewhere. It might not land in Rookie of the Year. It maybe could. But I don't think that Oklahoma City is going home empty-handed with zero hardware at the end of this year. I think at the end of this year, they're going to end up with a Rookie of the Year or a Coach of the Year somewhere in this run because they are going to be good. Like, everyone is on the hype train for a reason. It's not because everybody is overpumping the team. Do we think there's some championship caliber team? I don't think anybody's went as far off the limb as that. But does everybody think that they're a team that should legitimately be within the top 8 come playoff time? Yeah. Everybody views that that's the next real step that they can take when you consider the fact that they just barely missed the playoffs last year and they were missing somebody that some would argue already would be their second best player on the roster. Depends on how you feel about Jalen Williams. Yeah. But I think legitimately speaking, you're talking about missing at least a top 3, top 4 guy in terms of productivity on your team. Now you insert him and you're coming off the hype of Jalen Williams' rookie season, an insane year for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. There's a lot to like, and I'm sorry, you can't sleep on development. I touched on this last episode. I'm not going to go into the rant, but the Bulls are a bad representation of things like this. There are teams out there in the league that are taking young guys and turning them into serviceable players. And when you're able to do it with multiple young guys, all on a similar timeline, all working towards trying to get paid, trying to see their second contract, trying to get real NBA reps, trying to be notable as a real NBA prospect in this league, to be able to get those guys all moving and synced and playing at a really high level and seeing that progression, eventually it has to be rewarded, right? So I got to go with Mark, man. Give me Marky Mark at the top.
I like that. And especially, I mean, again, it's going to be a whole narrative thing, but if the OKC Thunder, if they can take the next step that we all believe they can, then him being part of the process this whole way through, he's gonna get his flowers, and I think he does have a good shot at this. But Jay, there's gonna be one narrative I'm gonna follow in terms of this Coach of the Year, and I have 2 candidates here. So imagine you have a guy, trade requests, suspension. You might have a little bit of a rocky start to the season, but you elevate your team. You're still able to get regular season wins, and you end up as a top 4 team in your conference. I see that this type of narrative can fit both Taylor Jenkins and Nick Nurse on each side of the conference. Let's start with Taylor Jenkins. He's shown, honestly, the last couple of years, with or without Ja, the Grizzlies are just a team that could just rack up wins in the regular season no matter what. And he's proven that over his entire tenure as coach there at Memphis. Now adding, a veteran presence in the locker room, Derrick Rose, Marcus Smart, they're going to try to get things together, and they're going to have a healthy roster. I think that they're still going to rack up wins, even in the 25-game absence that Ja isn't there. We've seen Jaren Jackson step up offensively. We know what Desmond Bane can do when he is like the number one option. He could still average like 24, 25 points per game. Then you have this roster around you and a healthy Steven Adams. I still think they're going to gather up a lot of wins. Nick Nurse, on the other hand, you don't have a suspension, but you have a pretty unhappy James Harden over there who's basically just waiting for the moment to get traded. If he can, and he's done this with Toronto in the past, as a Toronto Raptor fan, I've seen him do this. Take a player who hasn't really got to that all-star level yet, who's kind of like willing to take the next step and kind of elevate his game. I can see what he could do with that with Tyrese Maxey. If James Harden is not there, Tyrese Maxey might be the next guy up for the Philadelphia 76ers to be that number 2 guy. If the 76ers could still stay a top 4 team, over 50 wins, Nick Nurse kind of keeps the ship together, even after the pre and post James Harden trade. He's gonna be showing a lot of respect here. A tumultuous offseason for both Taylor Jenkins and Nick Nurse, keeping the ship together and still having a very good season for both teams respectively. Both these guys have that sort of narrative around their teams. But if I had to choose one, I'm going to go with Taylor Jenkins. He's been kind of in the mix for a while, too, as a coach of this Memphis Grizzlies, and I think he deserves his flowers pretty soon. I'm going to go with Taylor Jenkins as my ultimate pick.
I think that Taylor Jenkins is a really good pick, though, because of the fact that, like you mentioned beforehand, the notable storyline of missing Ja Morant for 25 games, if they're able to sustain past that, which we know they have the capability of doing, it really emphasizes his ability to lead this team missing their star point guard. And that's not just missing an all-star caliber player. You're missing a guy who should be considered as the leader of your roster. That should be notable by itself. So I think that's a really good point. I wonder how much stock they put into the Ja Morant stuff, depending on how it all plays out. Because the other flip side to it is they could be 17-5 and look really good, or 17-5 is a little short, but you know what I mean? They could go through the first 25 games and be like 20-5, 17-8, somewhere around there, you know what I mean? And be very serviceable in that time frame. Do they respect that enough to say, okay, this is a guy who should be leading our race at Coach of the Year? Or the flip side to that is, what if they're 10-15? Do we over gratify the whole Ja Morant situation to the point that we don't dock Taylor Jenkins any points, and we're just glad that he didn't completely sink under 500 in the time without Ja? That's the question, is how much are they going to weigh the success or the failures of the situation? Because I think the Ja Morant situation means a lot for the Grizzlies, not just in terms of Coach of the Year, not just in terms of their playoff hopes, but kind of just the culture of this team moving forward. That 25 games has to mean something for when he comes back. It has to mean something, because that's going to be what changes the trajectory. There's adults in the room, there's all-stars on the roster, and there's a coach who can coach his ass off. And they've clearly made themselves talented enough to be a top 2, top 3 seed in the Western Conference throughout the regular season. Now, time to go headhunter. We know what the big prize is in Memphis now. We've seen them make the postseason. We've seen them make the postseason in one of the top teams in the West. We know they got bigger fish to fry. I wonder how much things like that matter when it comes to voting for Coach of the Year, specifically for a guy like Taylor Jenkins.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, there's 2 different narratives that you can win for Coach of the Year. I think for this year, it's like I mentioned, it's not going to be just best record anymore. This type of narrative about maybe like having some sort of turmoil or some sort of drama in the pre/off season and then trying to overcome that, or in your case, a surprise team like the Tom Thibodeau win a couple years ago. That sort of surprise sort of win could also be the case for Coach of the Year. So any of these candidates, you mentioned Mike Daniel, you have Taylor Jenkins, Nick Nurse, these are all potential good candidates, and if they have enough wins, they definitely have a chance at this award. Moving on to the next award, we're heading back to the court, and we're going to be talking about the biggest rises here. We're going to be talking about most improved. There's over the last couple of years, it's been misinterpreted. It's been interpreted in different ways. It's basically potentially the surprise player of the year, the person who's taking the biggest jump. Some people say it's like a jump from starter to all-star level. Some people think it's all-star to superstar level. There's a lot of ways you can interpret this, but Jay, who are some guys in this race that you have in mind, and who do you ultimately have as your winner for this award?
So I'm glad that you said some guys, because like you mentioned beforehand, this is not one of them awards where you could just pick one dude definitively and feel good about it. We mentioned it beforehand with Rookie of the Year, right? This idea that there's always going to be this guy for Rookie of the Year or for MVP, where you look at it and you say, this guy's probably the leading candidate, and the only way that he loses it is if somebody comes up and takes it from him. Or it's more, let me phrase it this way. It's more likely that he gives the award away than he gets the award taken away by somebody else.
Yeah.
So let's go down the list of guys that obviously categorize for this. Mikal Bridges, after what we saw last season, has to be at the top of everybody's list in terms of just assumptions. We saw what he did last year on spot minutes, basically, with half a season to work with. Maybe not even that long, right? 20 or so games with the Brooklyn Nets being able to produce at that level. Obviously, with a bigger body of work, he's going to be a favorable candidate. Tyrese Maxey's name came up earlier in this podcast as it is. And I think when you look at the James Harden situation for what's going on currently and how it seems like it's only going to seem to get worse as things progress, if this gets any worse, Tyrese Maxey's role in this team becomes that much more important. I think other guys who come into the fray here, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to name like 3 or 4 guys, so rock with me for a sec. The Austin Reeves hype train has been insane all FIBA long. Mm-hmm. That's going to be a guy that is going to have a bigger role. Notable. Cade Cunningham. He hasn't played last season. So most improved is kind of a stretch, and I kind of hate when guys like this end up qualifying. But at the end of the day, I think if he produces well enough where he's a 23 to 25 point per game scorer, somewhere between like 23, 24, 8 and 5, you can't deny the talent, right? And this is a guy that I think everybody wants to see be good, but then we also want to see it for a significant period of time. So most improved for Cade Cunningham alone might be just seeing the boy for 60 games plus. So, we'll see how that goes. And then the other two, obviously, that I think are wild cards here are Jordan Poole and his new situation with Washington, and sneaky underground. We got the hype train going for DeAndre Ayton. So that's another guy that I've got kind of on the list. But definitively, if I'm picking to win and not necessarily to picking with my heart, I think the guy that's going to end up getting it is Mikal Bridges. I think that he already has a pretty good head start. I think he plays a really important position. He is the man in Brooklyn. I think Brooklyn is good enough to win 40 plus games, be kind of dangerous. I think it's a give and take, right? They're a team that I think could end up being really solid, or they could be a team that ends up selling off pieces and being pretty bad. I think they have incentive to win this year because their whole draft is gone, right? So obviously they're going to be gunning to be good this year. But I think when you compare a guy like Mikal Bridges to a dude like Jordan Poole or Cade Cunningham or maybe even DeAndre Ayton, the one thing that we can maybe make as a really strong point for Mikal is he's going to be a good player, a really strong all-star caliber player on a team that we think is at least going to be above 500 or around 500 at the end of the year. And I don't know if we could say the same thing for teams like the Detroit Pistons, the Washington Wizards, and the Portland Trailblazers.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, 2 of the guys that you listed there, they're kind of on my short list. Mikal Bridges, full year as the number 1 guy. We've shown what his capabilities were on the ball at the end of last year, and he's still keeping that high defensive intensity. He's definitely going to be up there. DeAndre Ayton, we've been banging this drum for the past month. If he jumped up to like a 24-12 type of guy this year, it's going to be hard not to keep him out of these conversations, especially because he's probably going to be the number 1 scoring option on this team this upcoming season. But my ultimate winner, and this might feed off my last topic, give me Tyrese Maxey to win this. Tyrese Maxey for me is someone, and maybe I'm a bit hyped with this guy because I did listen to the podcast with JJ Redick just recently where he's on, and I absolutely love the guy even more after listening to this. He's so even keel. He's the type of guy where nothing really phases him. He's like, if you think about his Philadelphia 76ers career, he came into it, COVID, the shortened NBA season. It was already chaos then. The season after, the Ben Simmons drama. This guy like had to like witness Ben Simmons basically pout his way out of Philadelphia. The trade that happens with James Harden. The season after, complete flames out. Doc Rivers gets fired, and James Harden requests a trade. This guy has not had a normal NBA career. But from all reports, from everyone within the organization, you know who's even keel on that team? Tyrese Maxey. He understands his role. He knows what it takes to take it to the next level. And I think when James Harden gets traded, I'm not even going to say if, he's going to get traded eventually. There's no way that they're going to be able to salvage this relationship. And that means Tyrese Maxey is going to step up to be a number 2 option. And I think he's going to excel. He's improved as a playmaker. You know how dangerous he could be on the ball, being a shot creator himself. Even in playoff situations, we've seen him step up in like first and second round series over there in the playoffs. I think Tyrese Maxey, if he ends up with like a 24-8 sort of season, alongside Joel Embiid over here in Philly, and there's still like what, a 5th, like top 5, top 4 seed over there, I think he has a really good chance at MIP. And like I mentioned, him as a guard having this type of production on a winning team, compared to even a team like the Brooklyn Nets, who doesn't have much expectations, doesn't expect to go far. And then, of course, you talked about the Pistons not really having much expectations, the Wizards, the Trailblazers, and all that. Tyrese Maxey has the most to play for out of all these guys here. And I think that, especially with a contract coming up and his chance being improved and his role being improved, I think he has a chance to win MIP. I have him as my official winner here.
I think that Tyrese Maxey is a really good pick. I mean, we got the 2 top guys here for BetMGM. Mikal Bridges at plus 1,000 for DraftKings. He's at plus 700 for Tyrese Maxey, plus 1,300 for BetMGM, and plus 1,200 for DraftKings. Like, these are the top 2 candidates in this situation, and I think, again, MIP is such a weird award, right? Because it's almost similar to Defensive Player of the Year. It's almost more eye test than anything. Because I think in this league, and TV, you can kind of give your thoughts on this if you have any. I think compared to years past, where it was easy to say, well, the guy who scores the most coming off the bench is the guy we'll give the award to. That seemed easy for a long time in this league. But TV, we just came off of a year where like 60 plus dudes average 20 points per game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
you're going to need more to stand out. You're going to need more to stand out.
Yeah, man. Averaging 20 PPG is not going to get it done anymore. It's crazy to say that out loud, right? Because once upon a time, averaging 20 points per game or more was a really big accomplishment. Now in this league, it's become so normalized that averaging 20 plus points per game is not just going to land you an award in this league anymore. And now with the player participation stuff going on, guys are going to be more engaged. Obviously, there's also the 65 game requirement in order to actually qualify for these awards, which also narrows down the list depending on how guys' seasons go in terms of injuries and things of that nature. There's a lot of different factors where six man of the year, DPOY, most improved player, those are all like big, like eye test based positions. Those are big eye test based awards. And this might be the most difficult year to really evaluate it, because it might end up coming down to, did you play enough games? Low key.
Who knows? That is something that, to be honest, when even making these picks, I knew it existed, but I really didn't take those into account. And like, that's going to be extremely important when it comes to these awards. Before we move on, though, I do want to talk about most improved really quick, the award in general. There are 2 players I'm not going to accept as winners for this award. Someone who is a first-year player a second-year player who's going to be named as a most improved candidate. I see Paolo Banchero up here in the top 10. No, we're not having that. We're not having this, man. Corny. We're not saying that he's going to be most improved. We're just calling this natural progression. This is not most improved. And secondly, the guys who turned from all-star to superstar. We're not calling that most improved. If Anthony Edwards, who averaged 24 points a game this year, jumps up to 31 points a game, we are not naming him most improved. I do not care. We are not naming him most improved. So as long as those 2 categories are not fulfilled, I mean, the guys that we mentioned, DeAndre Ayton, Tyrese Maxey, Mikal Bridges, I'm cool with any of these guys. We just now make sure we're not having either of the latter. Honestly, I'm even kind of maybe excluding Kate Cunningham from this. He did not have a second year. Kate Cunningham did not have a second year of his career. He played 5 to 6 games. No. This is his second year, in my opinion. We're not having him win most improved. If anything, he's like, what's the NFL have? Comeback player of the year? Let him have that. We're not having him win most improved. No way.
Yeah.
Speaking of these awards that you were mentioning about, having to like kind of have a different view on it, Sixth Man of the Year. Sixth Man of the Year, like you mentioned, in years past, whoever had the most points off the bench, and honestly, it's still kind of been like that the last couple of years, most points off the bench, probably wins you the award. We talk about the Lou Williams of the world, Jamal Crawford's, and most recently, the Tyler, I think we had Tyler Hero as well win the award, Jordan Clarkson over the past couple of years. Jay, in this sort of environment right now, who do you got winning Sixth Man of the Year?
There's only 3 guys I'm considering, and it took a second to kind of come down to it. I thought Emmanuel Quickly was legitimately in the running last year. Mike could have gotten robbed.
I think runner up, right? Runner up, right? I think it was runner up last year. Yeah.
Mike could have gotten robbed. Just gonna throw that out there. Norman Powell for the LA Clippers. The Clippers, I think, are gonna be good this year. I feel like we say that every year, and me specifically have been burned very consistently by this team. But I think this is a year where I think they are going to be really good. And if you look at this team, and I think even if you listen, I was recently listening to like an LA Clippers beat reporter, and he mentioned that if there's one guy who seems definitively comfortable within the role that he's going to have on the LA Clippers, it's Norman Powell. He seems like he's the one guy who definitively knows he is a microwave scorer off the bench. That is what I, as Norman Powell, do to be a serviceable player on this team. I think that's good. I think especially when you think about the fact that this LA Clippers team, they have a lot of really good ball handlers, but they don't get to the free throw line often. Norman Powell is like the Clippers free throw merchant. He is their guy who puts enough pressure on the rim to actually get them to the free throw line on a consistent basis.
Yes.
I think that's huge. And then the third guy is my boy Derek White. I think that, defense only matters but so much when it comes to these kind of awards, obviously. But, I mean, coming off the bench behind Drew Holiday, which is already an insane feat considering how big of a player Derek White was last year in the postseason specifically. But if he's coming off the bench for Drew Holiday as the leader next to like a Peyton Pritchard on the second unit, he's going to be like one of the best 6 men on like arguably the team that I think will end up having like the best record in the Eastern Conference. That is going to pay dividends. But I think it's Norman Powell. I'm taking Norman Powell. I like Emmanuel Quickly. I love what he brings to the table. I also am kind of pretty confident about the Knicks, but I just think that Norman Powell, he's going to be viewed in the NBA sphere as a more productive player by some others. I think that there's going to be an argument that Norman and Emmanuel Quickly maybe do a lot of the same things. Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to come down to how well do you do those same things and how does that productivity affect your team. And I do think that in the hierarchy of things, the LA Clippers will be a better team than the New York Knicks this year, even though I believe that the New York Knicks are going to be a real player in the Eastern Conference. I feel the same way about the LA Clippers, and I feel a little bit better about the Clips. So I'm going to take Norman Powell. It's a little bit of a crapshoot because I really like Emmanuel Quickly, but I think that Norman Powell's the guy.
Yeah, no, all of these guys are great options. I mean, Emmanuel Quickly is like labeled here as the favorite. If he averaged like 16 to 18 points per game and the Knicks are still good, he definitely has a good shot at it. I honestly was this close to making Norman Powell my guy in this category as well. But knowing the Clippers' health problems, like, is he really going to be on the bench the entire year? I think there might be an issue where he just might start too many games, and that's going to be an issue over there. Yeah. So I'm not going to go with any of these guys. And I don't think you even mentioned this guy in general. Give me Malik Monk. I think that last year, coming back from like last year, he had a really good season with the Sacramento Kings and made me really think, why did the Lakers give this man up for nothing? And he proved it all of last year, going into the playoffs as well, that he is a valuable piece off the bench, and he just fits perfectly with the Sacramento Kings system. If the Kings continue to do well, maybe move into a top 4 seed in the Western Conference, Malik Monk honestly has a chance coming off the bench, averaging 17 to 19 points a game still? Mm-hmm. I think that if the Kings are still doing really well, he's like their second leading scorer next to De'Aaron Fox. He's going to finish a lot of games for them too. So you're going to see him hit a lot of clutch shots in this season as well. I think Malik Monk, in terms of the microwave type of scorer, sure, like Norman Powell and Emmanuel quickly kind of like that too. But I think that Malik Monk has that kind of explosive factor where, maybe Norman Powell, Emmanuel quickly will give you, the consistent 18 to 20 points a game every single night. You're gonna see some Malik Monk games where he's gonna have 40. You're gonna see some Malik Monk games where he might have like a few 30s thrown in there as well. I think you're gonna have you're just gonna see like a lot more of those memorable Malik Monk moments. And even though like Norman Powell and Emmanuel quickly are like very keys like in their role, they know what their role is. I think the Malik Monk is more of a what you call a ticking time bomb that if you like really need to like have like a break in case of emergency, this guy can carry you to a victory. And I think you're gonna see some games like that for the Kings this season. So I think maybe it might be a bit more up and down compared to those other two, but I'm gonna go with Malik Monk still to win Sixth Man of the Year.
I think that Malik Monk is a good pick on the side of the Sacramento Kings are not the sneaky team anymore. Like, this is a team that was on the national radar pretty strongly towards the back half of the year. I think they're a team that maybe people are still a little iffy about. And I think that's one of the big things that maybe knocks Malik Monk down in the early portion of the year is that people are still wondering how real is Sacramento. But I think if Sacramento comes out swinging and Malik Monk has anything to do with that, the way we saw like the insane, double or triple overtime game against the LA Clippers, things like that, obviously it doesn't have to be on that level. But if he's hyper productive again, and this team is one of the best offenses in the league, they're already on the radar. So they're not the team that nobody's looking for anymore. So I like that as a dark horse pick. I think he's a sneaky guy who falls into that microwave scoring aspect where his production is going to mean so much to how good Sacramento can actually be this year.
Yeah, 100%. I think like that, just those moments where you just know that Malik Monk can win you games. Those are going to be like engraved in some people's minds as well, and I think that he's going to be a big part of it. By the way, how do you feel about Chris Paul being plus 2,000? It's really weird to see him in this conversation.
Yo, I think if Chris Paul saw that his name was on this list, he'd instantly throw the list in the trash. So I'm gonna say that you should leave that plus 2,000 away alone. Because I think even if he ends up on the bench, I think that Chris Paul, I don't think he's going to be the best sixth man in the league. I think he might be a very productive sixth man, but I don't think he's going to be the best sixth man in the league. And I'd be surprised with his temperament if he even ends up qualifying in terms of playing off the bench enough.
Yeah, 100%. One other quick bet. I mean, I've seen these odds, and you know what? I'm okay with it. As a Raptor fan, Gary Trent Jr. plus 3,000. I don't know. It's a pretty good one. I mean, the Raptors don't have much shooting anyways. He's gonna come off the bench, giving you, if the Raptors are solid, he gives you 16 to 18 tonight. Who knows? I'm just saying he's probably there's a reason he's down on this betting odds anyway. But if you want to go with like a little small bet there, try to win some extra cash. Gary Trent might be that guy for that list. But yeah, if you guys have any other candidates for this, let us know down below. But Jay, we've reached here, man. The final award.
Yes, sir.
MVP. Now, these last couple of years, I'm going to say this right now. The qualifications for MVP now have gotten absolutely ridiculous because of what freaking Giannis, Joel Embiid, and Nikola Jokic have freaking done with the stats. It's almost, you have to be like a literal demigod in order to win this award, because these three guys over the past 2 years have been breaking our minds in terms of breaking records offensively, these triple doubles, these high scoring averages, this defensive play. You need to be not just elite, not just a top 10 player in the league. You need to do it on freaking both sides of the court, or just be generationally good on one side. I mean, it's hard for me to kind of remove those three guys from the list. But Jay, who are you in your consideration? Who do you have winning this?
I was wrong last year. In the preseason, I think I had always kind of tried to lean the opposite way narrative-wise. But I think if there was any year for it all to line up, this might be the best opportunity. Nikola Jokic has won 2 MVPs. You can make an argument that he was robbed last year. Joel Embiid finally got the one that fleeted away. So now we finally met the Joel Embiid quota.
Yeah.
Giannis Antetokounmpo has also won 2 MVPs. Stephen Curry has won 2 MVPs. Kevin Durant has won an MVP. I think it's Jason Tatum time, bro. I think it's Jason Tatum's time. I feel like I've tried to make this argument season in and season out, and it just hasn't landed because, again, the video game numbers put up by these other guys like Jokic, Steph, Embiid, Giannis, it's been too easy to like overlook a guy like Jason Tatum. But I think if Nikola Jokic can be slighted for MVP last year with the kind of production he put up last year, I don't think Nikola Jokic gets any better than what he's been able to do so far. B, I don't necessarily know if Giannis can be in the running for MVP with Damian Lillard next to him. I think the next best candidate that really has any kind of pull is between Stephen Curry and Luka Doncic. But the thing that I think gives Jason Tatum the edge is what I've kind of said on the last couple of podcasts since the Jrue Holiday acquisition. I think the Boston Celtics are far and away going to have the best record in the Eastern Conference and might even have the best record in the entire NBA by the time the postseason hits.
Yeah.
And I think that if JT's going to drop 26 to 27 a game, he's going to be a big-time two-way player on both sides in terms of being a top-tier player on both sides of the ball. And he's going to be on the team with the best record in the league. That typically was the normal criteria for winning MVP. Pair that, whatever kind of biases, recency bias, voters fatigue, whatever you want to throw in towards some of the other typical candidates, Jason Tatum has the best case left, arguably next to maybe Luka Doncic, probably.
I like that choice. I really do. But I think it will take more than just that for Jason Tatum to win MVP. For me, it has to be like the Celtics are like far and away the best team. They need to have like a 65 win pace. They need to like Tatum not only has to average 27, I think he has to be like closer to 30, have like 6 rebounds, 5 assists, all that good stuff. Because even someone like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who low key, because of all this Thunder hype we were giving, if they were like considered a top 6 seed and Shai was averaging like 32, 8 and 6 or whatever, it's not the top team in the league, but he definitely could have like a small case over there. But I think Tatum, for things to fall his way, the Celtics need to be the best team in the league. He needs to show that he is like a top defensive threat there. He needs to still be one of the top scorers, have a better all-around game, maybe up his assist numbers a bit. I think he could do it, but I think it's going to take a lot more than even like what you expect from him. This is why I hate to say this, but I think the voters truly knew they got it wrong last year. I think they know they got it wrong. Joel Embiid, sure, he had that little late push at the end, but when you look at the totality, when you looked at how great the Nuggets season was, how they finished things off, it's clear in a way that Jokic, even before his playoffs, deserved that award just for his entire impact on that team. You know you're going to get those numbers from Jokic. And honestly, last year being 25, 10, and 9, almost a near triple-double, that was just, a lot of that had to do with him just coasting at the end of the year. The Nuggets freaking had like this number 1 seed in the West locked up since what? March? Like, whole month just coasting, just waiting for the playoffs to start. I honestly believe that Jokic is going to come back this year, average a near triple-double, close to like 28 points per game. And I think voters are going to realize we kind of did this man dirty. We didn't want him to have that narrative to win 3 in a row. I think him not winning 3 in a row gives him a little bit more cushion. Maybe that extra push. Maybe, if we could get this award back to him. I'm giving this award to Nikola Jokic. I think that the Nuggets, they're going to be the best team in the West record-wise. I truly do see that. And I think they're the most reliable in terms of health as well, especially because Jokic barely gets injured as well. He's going to meet that quota of the 65 games pretty easily, in my opinion. And I just think that people realize now, after this championship, as a whole, how much Nikola Jokic means to his team and how much of a unicorn he is in terms of the NBA sphere. Nikola Jokic is the best player in the league, in my opinion. He could do everything offensively, and he does this with such ease that sometimes you just forget how crazy it is. And I think this year that the voters are going to wake up, they're going to realize we robbed this guy last year. He's going to add some of those, I don't want to say sympathy votes, regretful votes, saying, my bad. We really should have given you this year. Here's a vote of mine. I think Nikola Jokic, no matter what's going to happen this year, he's still going to have his numbers. His team is going to be near the top of the league, especially at a healthy roster. I think Nikola Jokic wins his third MVP. He's going to put himself in some ratified air. Might make him a top 15 player of all time now. But I think he's going to win his third MVP.
Damn. I mean, I can't be mad at you. We were on the train last year that, like, Nikola Jokic, he was the better player. Anybody who tried to give us pushback in terms of Joel Embiid, we kept telling them, look, you can look at it and say what you want. You can be upset with the fact that Nikola Jokic doesn't look like the kind of guy that you would want to represent your league as a three times consecutive, mind you, MVP. Yeah. But he was just a better player. And again, I mean, I think I said this when we went on Marcus's podcast, where it was, he who laughs last laughs loudest, right? Because at the end of the day, it was like, okay, sure, Nikola Jokic didn't end up winning the award because of the fact that voters leaned with Joel Embiid and the late push that you mentioned beforehand. But guess what that ended up meaning? Because of that, Nikola Jokic was positioned to be the best player in the postseason, and it paid dividends. And it eventually led to the best hardwood you could get from the NBA. And I think that's, at the end of the day, that's probably most important to him. And I think if he had to do it all over again, I think he would take it the same way of losing MVP if it meant getting the championship. I think now, with having a ring, being a multi-time MVP, he's only going to be able to play more free. I don't think Jokic gets any better, but I don't think he dwindles, not with the type of peak that he's at right now.
I mean, it's the same thing with him and Giannis. I mean, they got 2 MVPs already. They got their championship. It's all about team success now. But the thing is, they're just so damn good that no matter what they do, they're going to have MVP level numbers. And they're not even really going to be trying to go for MVP like Embiid was kind of doing last year. I don't know about that, man. But at the same time, I just think that when you take into all of that, how great he was this past postseason as well, I think that he has a chance to be a 3-time MVP. And even though that puts him in ratified air, he definitely deserves it.
Facts.
It's a tough award. Let us know down below what you guys think, who you have there. It's hard to kind of take away from those 3 guys, especially guys who have won MVP already. Like we mentioned, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, take him out of this conversation. But sometimes, I mean, we said at the top of the show, we have to stick to the basics here. And sometimes sticking to the basics means that you got to kind of not think too far ahead. Tatum is already one of the top candidates as well, so you can't reach too much. You can't reach too much for it. Sure. You just gotta go with what's there, and these guys are near the top. These guys are there for a reason. But yeah, those are all the awards. Let us know down below if you disagree with any of them or if you have any other picks for any of the awards that we just discussed. Jay, we have reached the final 2 segments of the show, and you already know what time it is. It's time for the NBA draft. And of course, when it comes to the award show, we have to have this draft kind of awards related. So bear with me here. It's a bit of a more confusing draft, but I'm going to explain it to you. So there are 5 player awards in the the NBA season awards. You got the MVP, you got MIP, Rookie of the Year, 6-man Defensive Player of the Year. We discussed those already.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to be trying to draft the best team possible all time, but we are allowed to pick 1 player per award, no repeats, and whatever version of the players we get that year's version. So if we take Steph Curry, which Steph Curry do you want? Do you want 2015 Steph or 2016 Steph? For Defensive Player of the Year, do you want 2022, 2021 Rudy Gobert, 2020 Rudy Gobert, 2018 Rudy Gobert? Maybe he might not even get chosen, but you have to pick those type of decisions. So once they're off the board, you can't choose anyone else from that poll. Of course, some people won multiple awards, so of course you can have multiple chances to get them in different places. But once one is gone, you can't choose it from any other award space as well. Jay, how you feeling about this draft?
I'm feeling pretty good, bro. This was pretty interesting one to go with. And I think that when you think about these awards across the board, you have to be real strategic, because that caveat of you getting that version, it's not just that version in terms of their offensive or defensive production. It's also considering their play style as well. That's something else that if you're going to form this team, can you get a microwave scorer from 2017 as a guy that you put down as one of your starting 5, but then also have to account for the fact that you might need somebody who's big time on defense. So you might have to get a lesser version of that player, but he provides what you need. These are different things that you have to categorize when you're trying to put these starting 5s together.
100%. And you know how these drafts go. Jay gets the first overall pick. I get the next two, and then we go serpentine. He gets the next two. I get the next two, and so on and so forth. And you know what? We might be cheeky a little bit at the end and choose like which coach from Coach of the Year that we want coaching this team as well. But Jay, you got the first overall pick. 5 positions. Who are you going to go with? Which award, and also which version of you going to take from them?
Oh, man. So I'm going to take one of the big guns off the board, all out the gate. And I'm going to take him at a really weird spot, too, because I feel like this will be a good way to cut the water off, but also kind of put me in good position. For my DPOY candidate, give me 2020 Giannis Antetokounmpo.
That's tough. So I can't even. Yeah, that's off for MVP as well. That is a really tough one. Giannis game being the first pick. I like that. That version of Giannis, man, kind of unmatched in NBA. Like he was absolutely amazing that time for sure. Great pick over there. Jay, you talked about being strategic with this. I am being as strategic as humanly possible because I believe there's one guy in the 6th man of the year category that kind of is a step above everyone else, and I want to take him off the board because I don't want you to having him. Give me 1985 Kevin McHale.
Ooh.
I think when you look at the list, when I was thinking of this list, it's a lot of microwave scores. We talked about this, Jay. We talked about how there's a bunch of microwave scores, top guys that if you want them to succeed, they need to have the ball in their hands. They're a reason to come off the bench. They're the spark plug. I need someone that could just fit the role in my team. And I know that Kevin McHale is a Hall of Famer. This is right before he went on that run of being a 6-time NBA All-Star. Right before that. So I got to go with Kevin McHale there, man. I got to go with that version of him, and he's going to be starting at my 4 position. Next, you already took you got MVP Giannis. So that's your pick for, sorry, defensive.
Oh, no, DPOY. DPOY.
Okay. DPOY. That's okay. I think that counts for MVP as well, because I think he won MVP that year, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so either one.
I'm just putting him in the DPOY one so I can keep my MVP one kind of open.
Right. Yeah. All right, my next one. There's a lot of good ones here, but I'm going to go over, again, Jay, it's a strategy. I'm going with my most improved player here. Okay. Give me, for my most improved player pick, 2001 Tracy McGrady. First year out of Toronto, came into Orlando and absolutely destroyed the league, averaging 26, 7.5, and 5 assists. This man was a freaking killer, one of the best scorers in his prime. Give me T-Mac, and he's going to be running my 2.
Oh, man, T-Mac is a good pick. That's a good pick. I got to go toe for toe. I got to go toe-to-toe with you, though. Let me get – oh, man, the version of him is going to be the most important here, so I got to make sure that I get –
that's the thing, the caveat, man. You got to get that season's version of him as well. So it makes these decisions a bit tougher.
I want to get the 1996 MVP Jordan.
Ooh, yeah. I would be surprised if you didn't pick Jordan from this list. As a freaking Bulls fan, there's no way you're going to leave Jordan on the board.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is 1996 was that 30 PPG year, man. So that was just a different type of demon. Mm-hmm. And then let's see. I think, man, you made a really good point about that about some of the other awards being where you just got to be real specific about how you want to go.
Yeah, there's a lot of it's a tough choice. I mean, besides Kevin McHale, it's a lot of it's a tough choice there for 6-man.
Yeah. Dude, let's be hyper athletic. Give me most improved 2013 most improved Paul George.
He was the other guy on my list. I was thinking Paul George, and I was trying to think which version was the one that completely went off in the playoffs. It was the year after.
It was the year after. That's why I was a little hesitant to pick him initially, but this is the year that kind of slowly but surely put him into the echelon, and the year after is the one where he bursted onto the scene pretty effectively at that point.
Yeah. Exactly. So I like that pick. Paul George is literally going to be my second guy if it wasn't for T-Mac, but that is a damn good pick as well. Paul George is a good one. Next up, it was tough because Jordan was going to be my first choice for Rookie of the Year. Not going to lie, I was going to take Rookie Jordan as my next one, but I will still stick with Rookie of the Year. You might think I go LeBron. No. I need someone to fit this team better. A really good shooter. Give me 1980 Larry Bird. I mean, like,
Mm.
maybe it's me, like, watching I don't know if you've been watching the Winning Time um, NBA show on HBO Max. I don't know if you've been, like, keeping along with that or been watching that show.
Mm-hmm.
But Larry Bird, man, ever since he came into the league, was an absolute demon. Average in his rookie season 21 points per game, 10 rebounds, and almost 5 assists with 2 steals. This guy was, again, one of the best players already in the league, and he was a rookie. Put me in the 3 spot. You already know Larry Bird's going to fight on both ends of the court, and he's just going to give you that cool force at the 3. Paired up with Kevin McHale once again. Give me Larry Bird at the 3. And then my next pick. Ooh, I got one more here. I'm going to take my Defensive Player of the Year choice, and I'm going to go over there at center for Hakeem the Dream. Give me his 1994 season. He won Defensive Player of the Year 2 years in a row. I'm going to take his 1994 year where he, in my opinion, was better. You know how Hakeem is, one of the best defensive centers of all time. And of course, his offensive game is, like, unmatched with anyone else and like, as a center as well. So give me Hakeem at the center.
Man, Hakeem, that's a pickup right there, boy. Oh, my gosh. But TV, I gotta clear the room now, man. I gotta clear the room now.
I left you. I know I left you with one guy. I know you. I left you with someone, and you get to pair him with Jordan. Yeah. Let's see.
It depends on how you view it. Because I only have Rookie of the Year and 6 man left, so kind of depends on how you pair it up. For Rookie of the Year, I'm gonna get my center position notched up, but we're just going to be an athletic dunk on you team. We're going to be a team that gets out and runs the floor. Dude, give me 1993 Rookie of the Year, Shaquille O'Neal.
He was my backup choice just in case for, like, Larry Bird as well. I was thinking Shaq.
Yeah, man. At the end of the day, I mean, look, I know him and Giannis might kind of like overlap each other, but those guys, you got to think about what rookie Shaq was doing, man, out in the break. Everything that Giannis does, that's Shaq, but now we got 2 of them just running on the fast break, going to be dangerous in the open court. I mean, it's pick your poison in terms of who you get dunked on at this rate. I'm not going to lie to you.
This was the Shaq that was breaking backboards, right? This was like breaking backboard Shaq as well. So it's nasty. That's a nasty pickup.
And then the guy who's going to cap off my draft and the guy who's just going to kind of epitomize the bucket getting and just danger offensively that we're going with, give me 2012 6 man of the year, James Harden.
Okay. I mean, this is not quite the James Harden that we got the following season, which was in OKC and Houston, but it's a pretty damn good player. James Harden, that's a really good pickup as well. And I leave my MVP. And I'm leaving the point guard. I gotta go with the only unanimous MVP in NBA history. It only makes sense. Give me probably one of the best seasons of all time, 2016 Steph Curry. The man to break the 3-point record. The man to absolutely tear this league apart. Didn't win the championship, though, unfortunately, that season. But he was still able to have one of the best seasons, especially for a point guard. It's one of the best seasons in NBA history. Give me Steph Curry to lead this team. Man, I'm really liking this team. Jay, I'm going to throw it over to you. What is your team looking like?
All right, so I kind of lined it up based on the order that I would have. So I'm going to say the awards, but I'm also going to have them in position from point guard all the way down to center. So at the point guard, we have 6-man 2012 version of James Harden. At the shooting guard, we've got the 1996 MVP in Michael Jordan. At the 3, we have the 2013 most improved player, Paul George. At the 4, I'm going to do the 2020 defensive player of the year. Also won MVP that year just to be kind of slick. Giannis Antetokounmpo. And then at my 5, I'm going to have 1993 Rookie of the Year, Shaquille O'Neal.
That's honestly, a very just a dominant roster all around. I really do like the team you put together. As for myself, man, I want to get a good all-around team, a team that can do a bit of everything. And I have some fantastic players here. At the point guard position, 2016 Steph Curry. One of the best seasons of all time. I had to have him in the team. Next up, give me 2001 most improved player, Tracy McGrady. First year on the Orlando Magic. This guy was a killer ever since after he left Toronto, sadly. Shout out to my 3-man Rookie of the Year, Larry Bird. He's just a dog. One of the guys that saved basketball. I'm going to have him there. I'm going to have sixth man of the year, Kevin McHale. Before he went on an absolute tear, became one of the best power forwards in the league. I'm going to have him be my sixth man. And then at the center position, same thing with Giannis. My Hakeem did the same thing. Give me 1993 Hakeem, who also won MVP as well as DPOY. Jay, how are you feeling about your team?
I'm feeling pretty good, man. I mean, I know there's more offensive dominance than defensive dominance, but don't sleep, man. Michael Jordan, Paul George. Paul George was sitting in the chair back then those days on defense. I think he's still one of the better two-way defenders in the league, but back then he was really engaged as a young buck, still trying to make a name for himself. Giannis, DPOY versus Shaq. Come on, man. I mean, it's going to be a lot of defense out there, too. So, we got a little bit of everything. Not too much spacing, but we going to get buckets. We're going to get buckets.
Yeah. I mean, the way I built my team is like my entire front line. They're gonna kill you offensively. Even though you got one of the best offensive teams ever over here, but in my backcourt is just gonna absolutely just get buckets on you. Freaking T-Mac and Steph Curry, they're gonna absolutely kill it. Let us know down below what you guys think. Which team is better? Actually, Jay, if you had to pick a team, I mean, we said this earlier on. If you had to pick a coach to coach this team, what do you got?
Man. Let's see. I can check I can check on who I think I would.
I mean, actually, while you're checking, I'll just give my pick over here. I guess.
Okay.
Give me 2014 Greg Popovich. He took a bunch of those old Spurs players, Tony, Manu, Tim Duncan, got the best out of them. Got the best out of third year Kawhi, and he was able to take down the Miami Heatles. That's one of the best, all around teams of all time. That finals team averaged the highest player averaged 17.7 points per game. That is team basketball at its best, and I think Greg Popovich, again, one of the best coaches of all time, I'm going to get his 2014 year as his coach of the year.
I think that we have to put James Harden in the best position to be the greatest point guard ever as early as possible, right? So in this situation, with this team, give me 2017 Mike D'Antoni with the Houston Rockets. Let's go ahead and get it popping a year early, right? Set James Harden up as one of the better point guards in the NBA. He's going to have Michael Jordan, Paul George, Giannis, and Shaq to pass the ball to. So he won't have to be nearly as ball dominant in terms of his offensive prowess. But if he got to sling that thing around, he's going to have a lot of different options to pick the litter for. So, I mean, up-tempo offense with those kind of guys. Give me Mike D'Antoni.
Hell yeah. But yeah, those are our two teams. Those are our coaches. Let us know down below who had the better draft. Jay, we have reached the final segment of the show, and it is time for the NBA quiz. And of course, with this quiz, I made an NBA awards theme as well. Again, kind of going back to the glazing of Wembanyama. From what you've seen so far, we talked about him being a generational talent, and he's showing why he's a generational talent. And those type of generational talents eventually become MVPs. When you talk about the Jordans of the world, the LeBrons of the world, if Wemby's going to be anything close to that, he's going to have an MVP in the soon future. But Jay, this seems like a long list, but I think you can crack this out pretty easily. There are 17 players in NBA history who won Rookie of the Year as well as MVP in their careers. I'm going to need you to name all of them. There's going to be some older guys here that I will help you out with later on, but I think you're going to be able to get through 10 of these super, super quickly. So let's see what you got.
All right. So I guess we got to get some of the easy ones out the way. So what? Braun,
4-time MVP, and of course, won Rookie of the Year.
Shaq,
yep, has one of each.
Kevin Durant.
Yep, he's also on this list.
Will,
4-time MVP, also won Rookie of the Year.
Hakeem,
no.
Didn't win Roy.
He didn't win Rookie of the Year. But you should 100% know who won Rookie of the Year his draft class.
Oh, dang, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, Michael Jordan, duh. Yeah.
Michael Jordan, 5-time MVP, Rookie of the Year as well.
Who's another one like Wes Unseld?
Wow, I thought that's gonna be more of a later poll, but yeah, Wes Unseld won Rookie of the Year and MVP. I think he won Rookie of the Year and MVP in the same season.
I think it was the same year. That's the only reason I remember. I think it's only him and Will or something like that. Yeah. I don't even think the list is that long.
Yeah, I think it's just those three, right? Yeah.
Dang, who else won Rookie of the Year? That's the main question because, Rookie of the Year be flashing the pan. We got Michael Carter Williams, Blake Griffin. You know what I mean? We got a handful of guys. It's
Yeah, let's see. How many post-2000 guys we got? We got
that's a good question.
we have 1, 2, 3 post 2000s guys still. You got a '90s player still around, and then you got a bunch of older dudes. But I think you can still get some of these these current current players still here.
So like Kareem, if I haven't
Kareem's
said him
there.
already.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, he's there. 6 MVPs, also won Rookie of the Year.
Okay. Larry.
Larry, 3 MVPs in Rookie of the Year.
Magic.
Magic Johnson did not win Rookie of the Year.
Dang, that's right.
Yeah.
AI.
Allen Iverson, yes, Rookie of the
Okay.
Year and also MVP.
I already said Braun, right?
You said Braun already. I think you're missing, 2 guys post 2000. Because you said Kevin Durant already, right? Yeah, you said KD.
Yeah, KD. Yeah.
So you're missing 2 post 2000s. One who's currently still playing.
Oh, word. Ooh, that's a crazy one. I wasn't thinking of currently. Did Powell win MVP?
Powell did not win MVP though.
I don't know why I thought he did. That's crazy. Oh, you know what? He won Rookie of the Year though.
He did win Rookie of the Year. Yes, he did.
Oh no, I gotta get my guy D Rose, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the current guy right now.
Yeah.
One MVP, Rookie of the Year. That 3-year period of D Rose was absolutely phenomenal, man.
Yeah, come on, man. At the end of the day, like that would have been one I would have really been sick about if I didn't get it.
Yeah, so you have one more post 2000s guy. You got 190s, a couple of 70s guys.
Ooh.
Well, actually quite a bit of 70s guys, and also one guy from the 50s.
It's a lot of 70s guys. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I might be in trouble.
2 of them might be hard.
Did Timmy D win an MVP?
Yes, he did. 2 MVPs,
okay,
1 Rookie of the Year. So you got everyone post 2000. So you're looking for one 90s guy. You're looking for, let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4 70s guys, and 1 50s dude. So that's 6 in total remaining.
Jeez. Did my boy Bob Pettit win MVP?
Yes, 2-time MVP, Rookie of the Year. That's the guy from the 50s. Bob Pettit did do it.
Oh, okay, that's even more clutch. Cool. I had to read, like when you said 50s, I was like, I gotta reach deep.
Yeah.
Shout out to my other boy Bob. Did my boy Bob McAdoo win MVP?
Yeah, I thought that was gonna be one of the last 2 you get, but Bob McAdoo,
no.
Rookie of the Year and MVP, good pull.
Heck no.
Shout
one of the
out to
original
San Diego
stretch
Clippers.
fours, man. Yeah.
Shout out to the San Diego Clippers.
One of the original stretch fours, bro. Like he's one of those guys. I watched like a documentary on dude before.
Yeah. So he's got the 3 70s guys left.
3 70s guys.
And 1 90s dude.
Oh, and there's still a 90s guy left? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I feel like we got all like the big guys though.
The thing is with this guy, I feel like even though how great he was overshadowed by the bigs in his time era. He doesn't get enough love, not nearly enough love.
Oh wow. Okay, underrated big man, but was like pretty insane. Did David Robinson win MVP?
Exactly, it was David Robinson.
All right, Ben. When you said underrated, I started just like listing guys who I'm like, come on, man, like who's in there?
That's what I mean. I mean, he had Hakeem in his era. He played alongside Tim Duncan. He had Shaq in his era. It's tough to kind of stand out, but he was honestly just as good as all of them. So yeah, David Robinson, and then you got, I think the last 2 are the 3 are the 3 70s guys.
All of them are from the 70s. Oh yeah. Man.
You got one guy who he was known as something before his record was broken, I think a couple years ago. You got a guy who unfortunately died in the last year or so, RIP to him. And you got probably someone who you probably didn't think won both MVP and Rookie of the Year. I didn't even think he was part of this list, but he was a part of it.
Okay.
Just think of the 70s.
Apologies to my audio listeners. I'm digging deep right now. I already used Bob McAdoo. That's why when you said I still got 70s guys left, I'm like, that's tough.
Did one of them probably do in the 60s? I think maybe like one of them was like maybe late 60s or like mid 60s. Maybe like 2 70s guys like 160s dude.
Did Adrian Dantley win MVP?
No, he did not. He's not on
Damn.
this list. One guy from the '60s. I think the easiest one is the guy from the '60s. Like I said, he has like a certain nickname, but I don't know if we can call that anymore because his record just got outdone by a specific
Oh,
point
is it
guard.
Oscar?
It is Oscar Robertson,
Okay,
won
I
an
didn't know he
MVP.
won Rookie of the Year. I
He
guess that
also,
would flip.
yeah, so he did win Rookie of the Year as well. And then the last two guys you got are 270 guys. They're both centers. Um, Tough era in the NBA, but this guy, one of them, is probably like the best player of this franchise's history. One of
So
them is.
them both being centers is where stuff gets mad interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's got to be random people. And I already used Wes Unseld, so he's out. Again, we're in 60-70 territory.
Yeah.
I already used Bob McAdoo, so he's out.
See, both played in the Eastern Conference.
Oh, what the heck? Okay, that kind of clears things up a little bit. A little bit.
Yeah.
That's
And
a good hint. That's a decent hint, actually.
Yeah. And remember, one of these guys unfortunately died. I think it was earlier this year or late last year, but it was like in the last year or so. Legendary finals series as well. One of the most like legendary final series in terms of like what he had to go through in order to like win his championship.
Is it like Willis Reed?
It is Willis Reed.
Oh, that's tough. That's tough. Okay.
Rookie of the Year, MVP, of course, won that championship. I think it was like he had some like some sort of like massive injury and he was still able to play through it. Shout out to him. Also RIP. And then of course, honestly, I knew this was gonna be the last one for you. This was a tough one. He did this on a historic franchise, but I feel like he's like a forgotten legend of this team.
Okay, stupid question because he clearly won Rookie of the Year and MVP. Does he have a 2K card?
He must have. He must have. I would say he must have. He must have had a 2K card.
Is it like a 2K card where it's a high overall, but you don't care?
Yeah. He's one of those.
Is he one of the people that would like, I think that made NBA top 50, but you're like, he's one of the first guys you can knock off?
I wouldn't say, I guess, but also I feel like that's disrespectful to this man.
Okay. I'm
I
just saying.
No, I know what you mean.
Okay. Because you said big man, so that takes off Dave Bing, but it doesn't take off Dave Cowens.
It is Dave Cowens.
Okay. See,
MVP,
you got to go in the well, man. Come on, man.
Yeah, you had to go into the well for that one. Celtics. Look, man, he was caught in that weird era in between Larry and also in between like the Russell era. So he kind of falls into there. But honestly, MVP and Rookie of the Year, pretty damn good for him. So yeah, those are the 17 guys on the list. Pretty extensive list, a lot of all-timers, but it was once you get to like those older generations, it's gonna get tough either way. But yeah, those are the quiz. That's the quiz. MVP, Rookie of the Year, career. Let us know what other quizzes you want down below. We're gonna definitely have some more creative ones as the season goes on in the next couple of weeks or so. But we've reached another end of another fantastic episode. Thank you guys for watching. Jay, what do you have to tell these people before we sign out?
A couple days away from the NBA season, bro. It's only getting more and more exciting as the days come along. We have a lot planned. We say it every single episode, but now it's becoming more and more real. Stay tuned, as TV says every single week. Check out the Instagram. Like I said before, the content is pumping out quickly, but it's only going to get crazier once the NBA season actually gets up and started. So I'm just really excited, man. This is my first full year going in where I feel like crazy confident, not just about the product on the floor in terms of like enjoying some of the storylines, but I think this is going to be my first year where I really cover the NBA front to back, from tip off and on opening night all the way to the last game in the postseason. I've been doing this podcast thing for like 2-3 years, but I think TV, this got to be like the most exciting season that we're going into right here.
100%. And you guys, look, we tell you only so much on the podcast, but there's a lot of stuff going up here, guys. There's a lot of stuff going up here, and we're excited to share that with you as the season grows along. But before we have to go, remember to show love on any of the podcast networks. Show love on the YouTube. Remember to like, share, subscribe. And remember to check out our individual pages as well, at the Knockdown J, at TV on Basketball. And of course, hit your free throws on TikTok and Instagram. The best daily NBA content. You're going to get vlogs. You're going to get filters. You're going to get clips from the podcast. You'll get everything on the page. Make sure, if you want to follow anything to start off with, check out those 2 pages, and then you can start to check out everywhere else that we're at. So show love there. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a fantastic day. This is TV. That's Jay signing out. Take it easy, guys.
Peace.